I want to talk about the improvement I've been seeing from AEW. There has been a lot of improvement in the past couple of weeks over issues that I had with the product. Mostly the issues being that there was too much of a focus on in-ring wrestling and not enough on storylines. I understand that AEW wants to be an alternative and give more of an in-ring product. I get that, and I understand the philosophy behind it, but the problem is that random matches people don't care about those as much anymore because there's so many matches every single week on every single wrestling show. People care more about the story and the characters. This is why the Bloodline angle worked. This is why Sami Zayn went from being a guy in the Jackass match last year to being a main eventer of WrestleMania. Like, people cared about that guy because of the Bloodline storyline. This is why Mr. McMahon versus Steve Austin or Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage worked. Not because they were tremendous, in-ring performers. It's because people cared about the story. And AEW's really been lacking when it comes to story. Each show should have a few cliffhangers and hooks to come back the next week. And I don't mean hook like Taz's son. I mean like a hook, a reason to come back. Past couple weeks of AEW have been great. The cliffhanger at the end of the episode where Jay White got beat up by the Devil, who's probably not MJF, and his group, tremendous cliffhanger. That could be a storyline for the next, 5, 6, 7 weeks or even longer. And that, to me, is interesting. One of the things you always want to do in a television show, whether it be wrestling or a regular TV show, is you can really hook people by getting them to ask questions. When you're a viewer, you need to watch this and have the viewers in your head, you're asking questions like, why did this guy do this? Who is that? What's the mystery behind this? Because that will keep people invested, and fans love to theory craft. Fans love to fantasy book. Some of them suck at it, some of them are great at it. But the idea is that you want people to kind of think about where the story's going, because then they have to tune in every week to watch the story. That's how it works for any TV show, including wrestling. And AEW has improved. This past episode was another one that I thought was really well done, of Dynamite I'm talking about. I felt like the angle with Christian and Edge where Christian said, go fuck yourself, bro. I saw it on the Fight TV version. It was uncut. That was a beautiful way to close the show. They actually closed the show with an angle and not a match. There were good matches on the show. Like, I thought Ray Phoenix and Matt Jackson, or was it Nick? I always get them mixed up. I always do. Had a great match. I like that. I liked what they did with MJF and Jay White, finally setting up the Full Gear main event. Can you believe that AEW setting up the main event all these weeks ahead of time? Remember how I was complaining to you guys in a previous video about how the booking for All In and All Out was bad because we didn't know any of the matches? Well, we did near the end, but they took too long. Well, now it looks like they're at least going to promote the big matches way ahead of time, and that's smart. So whatever's going on with Tony Khan, whether it be the influence of Will Washington or Edge, I'm a very fair man. I'll criticize AEW when I don't like it, but I'll put it over when it's good. And AEW has improved. And the angles is what people care about. Also, that angle where the Don Callis family now has Powerhouse Hobbs, who beat down on Kenny, I loved it. It was wacky because the tape kept falling off, but I loved it because Powerhouse Hobbs now has something interesting to do being part of the Callis family, and that's going to elevate him to upper mid-card main event status. Feuding with Kenny Omega is going to put you near the top of the cards. And that's a good thing. I mean, that's the whole point, is you want to elevate young talent, not just bring in former WWE guys. Hobbs never been in WWE. So here's a guy you could logistically push and have him be a serious player in AEW. So I enjoyed that. I thought that was a great move, and the show was really enjoyable. It's one of my favorite episodes of Dynamite because of the fact that it felt like a wrestling show. It wasn't just match. It felt like a wrestling show. Now, I want to shift the direction of this video to next week. We got a big week going on. Listen, I've been around a long time. I've been a fan of wrestling since 1989, right? Since I was a little kid. And I lived through the Monday Night Wars. I lived through the TNA, Monday Night Experiment that failed. I've lived through a lot of these wars. And what's going on next week is never going to be the same as it was back then. I'm telling you, it's not going to be the same. And the Wednesday Night Wars weren't even the same when it was NXT versus AEW. But guess what? Next Tuesday, NXT versus Title Tuesday AEW. So once again, we have another, even though it's only 1 week, it's another time when you're going to have two shows on television competing. Now, if this would have happened a year ago, I would have said, well, NXT is going to get destroyed. Now it's not quite the same because NXT's numbers have been going up thanks to the booking of Shawn Michaels put together. He's really got those talents over. They've got Becky Lynch there as one of their champions. So they've been making the right chess moves to kind of elevate NXT. NXT will always be the third brand. It will always be the tippy top of developmental. But hey, let's keep it real. For a long time, for many years, NXT TakeOver was the highlight. Let's not forget all those pay-per-view weekends when after the pay-per-view was over, you and your friends and me and my friends would talk about the pay-per-view, but then say, man, that TakeOver though, that Gargano Ciampa match was something else. That Adam Cole Adam Cole Gargano match, the Finn Balor, Andrade and Aleister Black, that's what people talked about, how awesome those takeovers were, right? Well, next week, we're going to have a new visit. We're going to revisit the Wednesday Night Wars on a Tuesday. And I'm really excited to watch. I'm going to be watching both shows. I'm super excited because we haven't had this in a while. And both companies are stacking the shows. They want to win, ladies and gentlemen. And it's all about bragging rights. Ain't nobody going out of business. Ain't nobody going to, flop. Hopefully not. This is all about bragging rights and those ratings. And it's really exciting because WWE and AEW are whipping out some of they're playing a good hand of poker here, yo. So, what do I mean by that? So WWE knows they're going to be going head-to-head with AEW. They know, and they're getting ready for it. So WWE will be having a big women's title match on NXT. And they're going to be bringing in John Cena and Paul Heyman to be cornermen. This is not even like a small thing. It's John Cena and Paul Heyman. These are legendary characters in wrestling. And Cody will have an announcement. Plus, there's a big rumor that Jade Cargill and Brian Pillman Jr. will be on the show. Obviously, WWE's counter-programming AEW by having Cody, one of their own EVPs, on NXT to steal viewers away from them because of how over Cody is. This is a crazy move, man. I would have never thought we'd see John Cena on NXT like this, but that's how serious WWE is taking AEW. Now, there's going to be people who are saying, well, I saw a guy yesterday, right, who said on Twitter, Dave Meltzer was saying, if you don't think WWE is taking AEW seriously, look at this lineup. And then somebody replied to him and said, well, a mosquito can bite me and I don't take it seriously, but it's still a pest that I want to squash. That was pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. I don't think AEW is a mosquito. I really don't. For all their flaws, AEW is the first company to come around that not only has the money, but is willing to spend the money to get tippy-top guys. TNA, well, there's a whole history behind that I won't get into, but there's definitely more momentum with AEW than anywhere near where TNA is. Now, what is AEW doing? AEW is countering with Edge's first match in AEW, the Rated R superstar Adam Copeland against Luchasaurus, and Shane Strickland or Swerve Strickland versus Bryan Danielson, dude. These two guys stole the show at Wrestle Dream. Bryan versus Zack Sabre and Shane Strickland. I always call him Shane Strickland, bro, because I know him from the Indies. Versus Hangman Page. Two absolutely phenomenal singles matches. And they're going to wrestle each other. We're going to party like it's 1999. You know what I'm saying? Plus, Saraya defends the AEW women's title against Hikaru Shida. That's an okay match. It's a rematch because, of course, Shida was the champion. Well, I don't know if it's a rematch. It's not a rematch. It's her getting her title shot, because she lost it a couple months ago. So that's going to be on that show. And then what I think is going to be the main event of the show, Jay White, the number one contender for the AEW World title, Switchblade Jay White versus Hangman Adam Page, a former champion. That's what I think is going to close the show. And wow, these are three pay-per-view quality matches that AEW is promoting for a Title Tuesday. So, I mean, it's just completely wild that they're both taking each other very, very seriously. Now, I will say this: when analyzing the ratings, AEW, I'm sorry, NXT on USA did 857,000 viewers approximately, and Dynamite did 800,000. So NXT beat AEW already, but I don't think that's. It's still close. It's still very, very close. But I am kind of surprised that Edge's debut did not pop it up to 1 million. I'm actually surprised about that. So I wonder if that means that Adam Copeland is not the same draw he used to be. I don't know. I love Edge. I've loved him forever, dude. That's my favorite wrestler. My favorite WWE wrestler from the 2000s was Edge. He was just, look back at his body of work from 2000 to 2010, and it's just magnanimous, so great. So right now, NXT is doing a little bit better than AEW, which was a thing people have been talking about for a while. But the fact that it actually beat AEW is an interesting state of affairs. It's very interesting. And also, I should mention, they're doing Powerhouse Hobbs versus Chris Jericho next week. So that's another match they're doing for Title Tuesday. What a crazy week we are going to have next week when it comes to the Tuesday Night War. What a crazy, crazy time this is. And I'm in, bro. I'm in. I'll be watching both shows and seeing what they're going to cook up, but it does give me those classic feelings of the past. Granted, it's not going to be the same. This is not the same as Raw and Nitro. This may be the closest we ever get unless Dynamite or Raw moves to another night. This could be the closest we ever get. We will see. But like I said, man, I hate the tribalism in the wrestling world. People picking sides and shit. WWE fans fighting AEW fans. It's very immature. Let's just enjoy what we have. Let's enjoy what's good and try to have a good time with this. Anyways, y'all, that's it. Leave a like. Talk to you soon.